Okay, welcome to the first Tock Custom YouTube tutorial video that I've done. Thanks for watching. And today we're going to be doing single and double welt pockets, which is a great way to accomplish putting a pocket into any panel of fabric that you need to, whether it's a messenger bag or a shirt or pajama pants or anything like that. So let's get started. So this welt pocket is a single welt pocket, meaning it has one piece of accent fabric here for the pocket. The inside is orange, and we have a nice top stitch all the way around the outside. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Alright, so here's everything you need to do a welt pocket. You've got your panel of fabric, you've got your pocket bag, and you have your welt. Okay, so here's our welt. We cut this to be 8 inches wide by about 5 inches tall. So if you want to do a 6-inch welt pocket, you need to cut this to be 8 inches, because we're going to take an inch in on each side. You're going to want to cut out an exact piece of fusible interfacing to go and back this so that your welt stays nice and flat and it will not wrinkle. Okay, the next thing you have to do is cut out your pocket bag. So we cut ours out, and what you need to do is cut it out at exactly the same width as the welt itself and as tall as you want it to be. Take your pocket bag fabric and pin the welt to it, right sides together, and we're just going to stitch these two together on a 1/2 inch seam allowance right here. Open this up, and I'm going to press the seam towards the pocket bag so it lays nice and flat. So let's do that. So we're going to plan out our welt. And this is where we do a bit of drawing on the back. So what I usually do is try to find the center, and then I'm just going to go about 1/2 inch over. And an inch from each edge is we're going to draw a line as straight as we can. So I'm just using a marker that's pretty dull. You don't want to use a really thick marker. You can use chalk or pen or pencil or whatever, but as long as you can see the lines, that's all that matters. Now we have two parallel lines, and you're going to want to put a little Y shape at each end. And try to be as square as you can. And then we're going to connect those two Y's with an extra line in the middle. So we're going to end up cutting this open later. We're going to lay our panel of fabric down. So this is the right side of a piece of brown denim. Then we're going to put the right side of our welt exactly where we want it to go. So right where these lines are on our welt is exactly where the pocket is going to show up. So if you need to plan that out, make sure it's all nice and straight and flat. I'm going to put a couple of pins holding this all together so it stays nice and straight while we're sewing. We're going to machine stitch from this point all the way to here, and from this point all the way to the other side. So you're going to have 2 sets of parallel stitches. It's very important that you start and stop right on those dots on both sides. If they're not even, the pocket is not going to sit flat. So you want to line up your needle right on the top point of where we're going to start. I'm going to lower my needle down to make sure it goes right in where it starts. So I'm going to go in and do a little bit of a back stitch. Okay, and we're going to go all the way to the end. And do a back stitch. Okay. Now if we go and start on the other side exactly where we went in, it should end at the exact same spot if you use the same stitch length. So we're going to put our needle in right where it starts. Do a little bit of a back stitch and do the same thing. Okay. Alright, now we can take our pins out. Okay, so if you look closely, you can see the pink stitches that run all the way across. Right? They're going to end right at the corners of the Y. The next thing we need to do is to open up the middle. So I'm going to line up my ruler right on the line in the middle, and I'm just going to use my rotary cutter to start little line. Otherwise, if you don't have a rotary cutter, you can fold this fabric in half and use your scissors to snip out a little bit of the middle and then just keep cutting. Once you have that started open, it's very important that you're really careful with your cutting here. So we're going to cut all the way to the edge of that tab. And you're going to try to cut as close to the stitching as you possibly can without cutting through any of the stitching. And the closer you get to cutting that out perfectly, the flatter it's going to lay. So you want to do that to both sides. So we've got our welt stitched on with our 2 lines. Everything is cut open, and you should have 2 Y cuts on the end of either side. Now we need to take all of this fabric and put it all the way through the hole. Okay, so I'm going to pull this to the back side of the fabric, and we're going to pull everything through. Sometimes this is kind of a pain in the ass, but we will make it work. Oh, that was actually really easy. So when you pull this all through and lay it all out, you should have a nice rectangular hole right here. Okay. Now we're going to take this over and we're going to press this down so it's all nice and flat. And then we're going to show you what the other side looks like. So when you flip this over, you should see a nice clean rectangle here. Flip it upside down. So to create our welt, I'm just taking this fabric, just roll it up. Make sure it feels nice and flat, and we're going to press that just like that. So this is pressed down now. What we're going to do is put a pin in either side through all the layers here, just to make sure that it doesn't move. So the next part is to stitch this whole thing down on the outside. That is pinned down now, so if I flip this over it won't move. So this is what our pocket is going to look like on the outside. Okay. Now we are going to top stitch all the way around the outside of this rectangle. And that's going to hold the whole welt in place so that we can build the pocket bag around it. Alright, so we're going to top stitch all the way around the outside of the welt. And we're going to try to get as close to the edge as we can without going over. I'm using pink thread for some reason, but I would normally use orange or blue or something that accents this fabric here. So you're going to want to do a couple of stitches and a back stitch, and then just kind of go all the way around. Alright, when you get to the corner, make sure you put your needle down and then put your foot up so you can pivot it. And foot down. Just stay right on the edge. Alright, needle down, foot up. And you're going to do that all the way around. And then do a couple of back stitches at the end to finish it. So what you should have now is a welt with top stitch all the way around it. You can now flip this and take your pins out of the other side. Now the last thing we have to do is flip it over, fold this right up to the top of the welt. So I'm just going to iron this down and make sure this is all nice and flat here. Right, so this is nice and flat. So I'm just going to take 2 pins. We're going to put one in the top of each corner. To sew the pocket together, when I am doing this on the machine, I will look at my panel and I will turn it upside down. And if you fold this side back, you're going to see this edge of fabric. So we're going to stitch right up here, and then when I get to the top, I'm going to turn it and I'm going to fold this back, stitch right across the top, and then turn it one more time, and you should be able to see all the different edges of what you need to stitch. So that's how we're going to stitch this. And you're actually done. That's all of it. That is everything. So when we fold this back out and take out all our pins, normally I'll give this one more press. Yeah, let's do that. Let's press this one more time. Alright, that's it. That's everything. So with just a few steps, we were able to create a nice welt pocket. And when we open this up, our pocket fabric is orange. So this will all be orange on the inside. And it's just a cool way to put some extra accessories into things that you would normally make, whether it's a pillow or a bag or anything like that. Alright. Now we're going to get set up to do a double welt pocket, which is... do I want to do a double welt pocket? Yeah, why not? So we finished our single welt pocket here, which is great. Now we're going to do a double welt pocket, which is almost exactly the same. So all the steps we did at the beginning, we're going to do exactly the same steps until we get to the point where we fold the welt up. So I'm going to get ready for that, and I will start showing you once I get to that point. Right. So now we're set up to do a double welt pocket. I've prepared up to this point. So when we got to this point earlier in the video, this is where we do something a little bit differently. So a double welt pocket, we're going to do the same thing where we're going to fold up one side, but we're not going to go all the way up to the top. You can push the little tab right here. This is the bottom tab. So we're going to push that up and fold this back over. And this is a little bit tricky to make sure you keep flat. We're going to try to roll it right around the top of that tab, and it's hard to see it, so you have to kind of feel it. So we're going to do the bottom half of the welt, and then we're going to do the same thing with the top side, where it's going to cover the rest of this hole. So we're going to press this first into place, and then I'm going to come back and show you how to do the other side. So this is pressed up now. I'm going to flip it upside down so I can get to the other side. If you use these tabs that are here, you try to roll it. I'm just going to roll it so it's all nice and flat. Now these two pieces of fabric right here should just barely touch each other, and it should make a really tight opening. So I'm going to do my best to lay this flat and press this all down so it's just barely as close as I can get to it. Now I've got both pieces folded over and pressed. Before we top stitch all the way around the edges here, I'm going to make sure that I've got these all pinned down nice and flat so they don't move around while we're stitching. Alright, so those are pinned. I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine, and we're going to stitch around the outside rectangle just like we did before. We have our double welt pocket all top stitched all the way around, so now these won't move at all, which is great. So if I flip this over, this will look exactly the same as the single welt pocket as we did before, and we're going to finish it by doing the same thing with the pocket bag as we did before, by pinning the two corners here and then stitching all the way around the outside. Alright, and we're all done with both of them. So here on the bottom we have our double welt pocket, which we just finished, and on top we've got our single welt pocket. Alright, so that's it. We've got our two welt pockets on a piece of fabric here. Now you could use this to make a bag or anything else. Again, this is my first YouTube tutorial video, so if you like it, let me know, and if there's something you're looking to make or do,